1 month before the extreme cold apocalypse arrived, I was reborn. I was reborn on the exact day I won the $1 trillion lottery. In my past life, I only cared about strolling around, eating and shopping like crazy. But then the extreme cold apocalypse hit. Prices of supplies skyrocketed. All luxury goods turned into a pile of trash. 100,000 yuans could only buy a single bucket of instant noodles. The endless expanse of pure white snow before my eyes suddenly transformed into a luxurious and warm real estate sales office. The bone-chilling cold that spread from my fingertips to my heart hadn't completely faded away yet. My head was splitting. I subconsciously leaned on the tall figure next to me. But unexpectedly, he pushed me hard onto the floor. "Lin Qian, have you had enough?" A cold voice sounded. I looked up and met Wei Shengjin's handsome face, written all over with disgust. Wei Shengjin, the male god I had simped over for 4 years without success. After finding out that I had won the lottery, he demanded that I fully pay for a villa and a sports car as gifts for him. To be with him, I gritted my teeth and bought a 30 million yuan villa and a 10 million yuan Porsche. After living together with him, I basically lived the life of a nanny. When the apocalypse arrived, he coaxed me into going out to find supplies. Upon learning that I had found nothing, he wouldn't even open the door for me, leaving me to freeze to death outside. I stood up and asked the saleswoman, "Do you have any cheap villas far from the city center?" I had already experienced the terrifying extreme low temperatures. Reborn for a second chance, I absolutely couldn't squander my money like in my past life. I must hoard supplies like crazy, build a safe house, and survive in the extreme cold environment. The saleswoman smiled politely. "Miss, this is a luxury villa complex." After that, she ignored me entirely. I didn't argue, just got up and left. "Stop right there. If you can't afford it, stop pretending, okay? It's so embarrassing." Wei Shengjin chased after me and grabbed my arm. I violently pushed him away. "You think it's embarrassing that I'm not buying you a house? Then why didn't you feel embarrassed living off a woman? You were the one begging to buy it for me." "It wasn't me who asked for it." "Well, I'm not giving it to you now. Get lost." I shook him off and completely ignored Wei Shengjin. I took a cab and headed straight home. As soon as I got home, I started calculating the location for my safe house. The population density in the city is too high. It's not suitable. Although the countryside is remote, the population isn't exactly small either. The houses in the village are packed closely together, so buying one wouldn't be safe. It needs to be cheap, remote, and have a large land area. A breeding farm. I had a flash of inspiration. A breeding farm is not only far from the city center, but I can also raise chickens, ducks, cattle, and sheep. It is simply the best choice. Taking action immediately, I drove to an agricultural base over 100 kilometers away from the city center. After hearing my requirements, they all shook their heads. Just as I was in despair, a big bro walked up to me. "Sis, I have an idle farm. It's just a bit far." My eyes lit up, and I immediately pulled him along, driving to the place he mentioned. The road there was rugged, almost entirely surrounded by mountains. The farm covered over 1,600 square meters. The outer wall was made of concrete, and inside was the breeding shed area. There weren't many livestock inside, only 2 dairy cows, 3 beef cattle, 4 sheep and 8 pigs. The area they occupied wasn't very large. Inside, there was also a large warehouse, and a small two-story self-built house connected to it. Overall, I was very satisfied and started negotiating the price with the guy. He looked at my clothes and tentatively made a hand gesture. I pretended to ponder. After some bargaining, I bought this farm for 4.8 million yuans. Afraid that I would back out, he transferred the ownership to me that very day. Before leaving, he even gave me a livestock breeding manual. Checking the time, it was only p.m. I took a cab straight to the nearest BBQ restaurant, stuffed myself, and then headed home. The farm was very basic, and I didn't know how to modify it. But I had money. Better to leave these things to the professionals. The next day, I went to the city's largest construction company, paid extra to book a designer, and brought him to the farm. I want a heating solution comparable to the North and South Pole research stations, using their construction methods to turn my farm into an indestructible fortress. Money is not an issue. The designer agreed. Power banks, self-heating rice, water, seeds, medicines, and other supplies were moved into the farm's warehouse. The construction company quoted a price of 30 million yuans for the complete renovation of the breeding fortress. The fastest construction period would take over 2 months. I raised the price to 50 million, demanding they shorten the schedule, work in 24-hour shifts, and finish the project within a month. Perhaps because the money I offered was enough, they gritted their teeth and agreed to it. I thought to myself, is this what it feels like when money makes the world go round? Having money is just awesome. On the first day of construction, I called my parents back in my hometown. Using the excuse of missing them, I asked them to come over and see me. The next evening, I picked up my parents. After thinking twice, I didn't hide anything. I told them about my rebirth and the impending extreme cold apocalypse. Seeing that I didn't look like I was joking, my parents were stunned. Mom, Dad, please believe me. It's true. I stared at them with pleading eyes. I'm your dad. I can tell at a glance if you're lying or not. My girl, you've suffered. My dad sighed. My eyes welled up with tears. The feeling of freezing to death in my past life still made me shudder. But I didn't have time to be sad. I explained the breeding fortress plan to them and showed my dad my shopping list. My dad frowned, tossed my list aside, and made a new one entirely. 500 bags of rice, 500 bags of flour, chocolate, alcohol, daily necessities, sausages, penicillin, various medicines, 10,000 caddies of pig feed, 30,000 caddies of forage, 5,000 caddies of chicken feed. Dad, will it all fit? I was puzzled. We must hoard. The appetite of cattle and sheep is huge. We can't let them starve. I looked at the blueprint. Tell the construction team to knock down the non-load-bearing walls here and expand it into a larger warehouse. After saying that, my dad took us out, heading straight to a wholesale warehouse supermarket. Dad, do we need to be in such a rush? My dad ignored me and drove even faster. We went directly to the warehouse manager. I handed him a card, gave him the supply list, wrote down the address, and demanded the workers load it up and deliver it immediately. The manager took the card, bowing and nodding, and hastily called the workers to get moving. Watching the workers quickly transport the supplies. On the second day of construction, the renovation workers smashed the old wooden boards on the outside of the shed. The farm looked even more dilapidated than before. My dad took the blueprints, glanced over them roughly, and spotted the problems. Here, I followed where his finger was pointing. The circled area. Don't level it here. Change it to a biogas system. Biogas can be used to generate electricity. Don't renovate the rooms, except for the load-bearing walls. Knock everything down to build a warehouse. We had the construction company dig out the deepest corner of the first floor. Living on the surface is not realistic. I understood immediately. Quickly called the person in charge. Transferred another 10 million yuans. Stated the new requirements. And asked them to double the workforce. The workers had to finish as soon as possible. Because I paid enough money, I became their biggest client. They sent even more workers. Drilling wells, expanding the warehouse, building an air raid shelter, and constructing the large shed. In just one day, the farm had already undergone massive changes. The most notable was the air raid shelter. Though called an air raid shelter, it was actually a new 600 square meter basement level. It was just that all the materials used were for an air raid shelter. We weren't idle either, working day and night to move forage, feed, and various ingredients. This also aroused the workers' suspicion. Boss, why are you taking so many insulation measures? And these cattle and sheep shouldn't need that much feed, right? We are expanding in the future, so we're stockpiling first. The worker nodded and went back to work. That day, I received a call from an uninvited guest, Wei Shengjin. He said on the phone, "Transfer 100,000 to me, and I won't hold it against you for not buying me the house." Because I had him on speaker. My parents could hear it too. They were completely dumbfounded. "Are you still dreaming?" I said irritably. "Don't think I don't know what you're plotting. Don't you just want to be with me? As long as you give me half your money, I'll accept your pursuit. What makes you think you're worth anything?" I directly hung up the phone. With the apocalypse approaching, the revenge for my past life, the blood-red sky before I closed my eyes, and the howling winds flashed in my mind. If it weren't for him, how could I have died so quickly? Time flew to the 7th day. Under the workers' 24/7 continuous shifts. The air raid shelter was completely finished. Outside the farm, many temporary resting tents were set up for the workers. To earn this money, they even leveled the outdoor toilets and turned them into resting rooms. The exterior of the breeding fortress was also completed. Even if the previous owner came, he wouldn't be able to tell this was the originally shabby shed. My dad, considering the extreme cold weather, thought the fortress's ventilation pipes might be blocked by snow. So he had every ventilation opening extended and reinforced with stainless steel. The warehouse was packed full of forage. Roughly estimated, there were about 50,000 caddies of forage. Considering the massive forage needs of the livestock, I had other plans. I bought several warehouse storage racks online and had the workers move all the human supplies down to the basement air raid shelter. The top of the fortress was fitted with aerospace-grade bulletproof glass. The walls were specially coated with 6 layers of anti-freeze cement, making them astonishingly thick. Honestly, if the air raid shelter wall materials weren't so expensive, I really would have replaced the inner lining of the fortress with them too. That day, my dad got 3 down jackets. I found this very strange. "Dad, what kind of down jackets are these?" I asked. "These are polar-grade down jackets," my dad said unhurriedly. He opened his mouth. "Highly cold resistant. They can withstand severe cold of minus 192 degrees. Maybe we can actually manage to move outdoors during the extreme cold apocalypse. Who wants to walk outside?" I was speechless, but my dad just smiled without saying a word. Because the massive construction in the deep mountains and forests didn't attract any attention. Time slipped by, and the farm became increasingly perfect. I deliberately installed surveillance cameras all over the fortress to monitor the livestock situations. During this period, Wei Shengjun kept messaging me every few days and calling me, unable to bear the harassment. I blocked him completely. Half a month later, the farm was officially upgraded into a breeding fortress. The most unique part was the air raid shelter. I later paid the construction team extra money to expand the air raid shelter's area to 1,000 square meters. At the very front was a massive charcoal furnace, taking up over 50 square meters. This was the heating furnace connected to the entire breeding fortress. Right next to it was our 50 square meter living area. We built partition walls, reinforced the exterior with steel pins, poured concrete, painted it white, and converted it into 2 rooms. For the remaining 900 square meters, I bought a large number of heavy-duty, 4-tier storage racks used in wholesale supermarkets. I had the workers move them to designated spots as requested. It looked incredibly neat. Items were divided by category: alcohol and beverages, snacks and instant noodles, quick meals, hot pot bases, staples, daily necessities, etc. The empty spaces were filled with electric pots, BBQ grills, roasting ovens, and other items, as well as 20 large chest freezers. The freezers were stuffed with fresh meats and all kinds of seafood you could think of. Unless absolutely necessary, we would never slaughter the livestock. After all, they were a continuously renewable resource. With only 1 week left until the apocalypse, there was still some usable space above ground. We decided to go out one last time to buy supplies. When we arrived at the biggest hardware supermarket in town, the shelves were already half empty. My father headed straight for the tools section, clearly targeting and grabbing the last few rolls of high-strength steel wire and 2 pairs of hydraulic shears. My mother quickly swept up the remaining antibiotics and multivitamins, not even sparing the iodine swabs in the corner of the shelf. I quickly shuttled through the daily necessities section, throwing into the cart things that seemed trivial, but were crucial. Packs of batteries, large rolls of waterproof tape, sturdy work gloves, and a whole box of old-fashioned candles and matches. Once we had bought almost everything we needed, we drove back to the fortress. Looking at the time, it was already PM. We stayed put for 5 days. The abnormal weather leading up to the apocalypse gradually revealed itself. First, it snowed in April, sparking heated discussions among countless netizens. Some people also posted warnings online about the extreme apocalyptic weather. because it caused public panic. They were quickly deleted by the authorities. Some people started hoarding supplies and buying warm down jackets, causing prices for winter goods to instantly skyrocket. Then came the unprovoked temperature rise. The average temperature across the country stayed at 45 degrees. Some southern regions broke the 55-degree and 60-degree marks. You could feel the heat waves hitting you on the roads. Those who previously hoarded winter goods were dumbfounded. Prices for winter goods, down jackets, thick quilts, and heat packs instantly hit rock bottom. Meanwhile, ACs, cold drinks, and ice cream prices soared due to the sharp rise in national temperatures. Various regions respectively entered states of emergency vehicle restrictions. In some areas, there wasn't a single car on the roads. People across the country suffered miserably in this intense heat. Meanwhile, our family of 3 hid in the air raid shelter, which was warm in winter and cool in summer, eating rice and BBQ, happily playing on our phones, and watching movies. The high heat lasted for 3 days. People constantly fainted on the streets and were sent to hospitals. The city hospitals were overcrowded. Patients with heat stroke occupied every ward. The AC in the breeding fortress also ran continuously for 3 days. The temperature outside was deadly high, and the temperature inside the already well-insulated fortress was even more outrageous. Although the highest temperature in the northeast was only 46 degrees. Even at just 46 degrees, the animals couldn't stand it. Fortunately, my dad had foresight. After hearing me say there would be continuous high temperatures, he decisively installed air conditioning. Otherwise, these livestock would definitely be roasted alive. The state decisively issued a high heat emergency warning, urging citizens not to go out unless absolutely necessary, and to stay at home until the heat wave passed. Netizens were going crazy in discussions. Some said this was the El Niño phenomenon hitting the continent. Some said this was the high temperature apocalypse, and everyone would die in this catastrophe. Suddenly, everyone was in a state of panic. City governments also quickly arranged volunteers to deliver supplies to every residential community. Power grid workers worked emergency overtime, on duty 24/7, to prevent city blackouts. The whole nation stood united. This lasted for a week. Before the temperature finally cooled down, the government also lifted the vehicle restrictions. Just as people breathed a sigh of relief, a massive rainstorm suddenly hit. It's here, it's finally here. Watching the huge raindrops mix with hail, falling crackling down, my heart sank. It was after this rain that the extreme cold apocalypse would completely arrive. The past week of surfing the internet had moved me deeply. I saw countless workers, police officers, and auxiliary police die in the heat wave. The state spared no effort to protect every citizen, but in the face of natural disasters, humanity is so insignificant. It had only been 1 week. The death toll had reached millions. After thinking twice, I still went online and wrote a lengthy post sharing details about the impending, extreme cold apocalypse. It was already too late for them to build safe houses now. I could only urge everyone to hoard down jackets, quilts, food, water, heat packs, and power banks as much as possible. The post was quickly pushed to the top. Many people left comments below, saying they had already started hoarding supplies based on my advice. Better safe than sorry. It's better to believe it than not. Seeing that the vast majority of netizens were still rational, I felt a bit relieved. I hoped my meager help could allow more people to survive. It was also on this day that I received another local phone call. Without thinking much, I answered it. Hello? Hello, Lin Qian. Did you know about these extreme weather events all along? Hearing Wei Shengjin's incompetent rage on the other end, I picked my ear and moved the phone a bit further away. What are you talking about? I don't know anything. I played dumb. Stop playing dumb. That day when you asked the sales office if they had any remote villas, I knew something was wrong. You're so rich, why would you lower your status? Thinking about it now, it all connects. So what if I did? I sneered. As long as you let me move in. I can let bygones be bygones. As long as you listen to me, I'll still be with you. How about it? It's just high temperatures and a rainstorm. My family just has a bit more food stored. Why do you want to move here so badly? I asked. Cut the crap. A rich and handsome friend of mine posted an update. They got inside information in advance and are preparing to go to Africa to escape. Don't try to fool me. Although I don't know exactly where you live, I have your personal info. People on the internet nowadays are ruthless. You wouldn't want me to expose you and draw everyone's attention to you, right? I fell silent, exchanging a glance with my parents. My dad nodded. I instantly understood my dad's meaning and pretended to be scared. Shengjin, please don't tell anyone. Actually, I wanted to live in it with you all along. I just wanted to give you a surprise. Who asked you to be so cold to me before? You can come over tomorrow. Hey that's more like it. In the apocalypse, we can depend on each other. And I'll treat you well too. Hanging up the phone, my expression instantly turned grim. What kind of person are you associating with? I didn't dare make a sound. Why are you scolding the child? Our child is stubborn by nature. Don't scare her. My mom pulled my dad's ear. What do we do now? Are we really letting him come? I asked. If we don't let him come, and he exposes us, it'll be very troublesome. We aren't afraid of people coming over. But what about the government? What if the government forcefully requisitions it? I unblocked Wei Shengjin and sent him our location. That night, none of us slept very well. We really hoped the rain would fall even harder. The fortress was surrounded by mountains, and to better graze the cattle and sheep, the fortress was built on top of the largest and highest mountain. My dad had observed the mountain pass. It easily accumulated water. As long as the rainstorm continued for 2 or 3 days, even if Wei Shengjin had heavenly powers, he wouldn't be able to drive up to the farm. Walking up to the farm was even more unrealistic. Setting aside whether there would be sudden, small mudslides, the rugged mountain road was not something Wei Shengjin could endure. After comforting myself, I fell into a deep sleep. The next day, the rainstorm seemed to have heard our prayers. I didn't feel annoyed. It was as if there was a hole in the sky. The howling wind was like nature's wrath. Fortunately, the rain was heavy, and our family's hanging hearts gradually settled. The city area must have already been flooded. No matter who it was, they would have no way to reach the farm. We were now completely isolated from the city. Speak of the devil. Wei Shengjin suddenly sent a message, making my relaxed heart hang by a thread again. I'm already halfway up the mountain. I'll probably be there in half an hour. Choner, don't forget to open the door for me. I handed the phone to my parents. The three of us exchanged glances, suddenly forming another plan in our hearts. Since Wei Shengjin had already come, I could only make sure it was a one-way trip for him. In the apocalypse, kill the bleeding hearts first. Whoever wants to stop our family from surviving, We'll go to the grave first. Wei Shengjin, since you insist on seeking death, I will make you pay back 100-fold right under my nose for everything from the past life. Wei Shengjin's estimated time was very accurate. I stood awkwardly in the rain holding an umbrella, the rainwater already soaking half my clothes. Wei Shengjin looked even more wretched. He had actually hiked all the way up here. Facing my shocked gaze, Wei Shengjin glared at me fiercely. What are you looking at? Hurry up and take me inside. My parents had hidden in the air raid shelter in advance. The air raid shelter's specially designed hidden entrance came in handy. If someone didn't know the location beforehand, no one would discover the hidden world underground. I led him into the fortress, looking at Wei Shengjin's disgusted expression. I tried hard to suppress the corners of my mouth from rising. We'll be living here together from now on. You want me to live here? Wei Shengjin looked at the basement with only one cotton blanket, and the livestock making noises all around, looking thoroughly disgusted. It's warm here. I'll just sleep in the warehouse outside the fortress. After saying that, he turned to leave. Wait. Wei Shengjin grabbed my arm. Where do you sleep? I timidly pointed outside, to the small single-story house the workers had temporarily built for their breaks. Wei Shengjin's eyes darted around, and he changed his expression. Chonner, I'll leave this for you to live in. I can rough it in the small house. I laughed inwardly. I was waiting for you to say that. I stayed calm on the surface. Okay then. But don't eat the food in there, okay? That's all the food we have. Then I took him to the small house. The decoration of the small house was simple, but it kept the wind and rain out, because it was plastered with leftover insulation materials and cement. It was quite warm on a rainy day. Wei Shengjin looked at the clean and sanitary small house and nodded in satisfaction, revealing a greedy expression toward the supplies my parents and I had moved in just half an hour ago. I helped Wei Shengjin take off his jacket. He showed a look of disgust. Stay away from me. You smell like cow dung. Shengjin, I'll wash your jacket for you. I maintained my fearful expression, considering that as a woman, I couldn't pull any tricks. Wei Shengjin nodded, reassured. Wait. I turned around stiffly, forcing a smile. What's wrong, Shengjin? Give me my phone. My heart sank. After handing the phone to Wei Shengjin, I hugged the jacket, shuffled out of the small house, and returned to the breeding fortress. My parents were already waiting at the door. Didn't get it? I shook my head. But it doesn't matter. We gave him those supplies, just so he wouldn't cause trouble in the early stages of the extreme cold apocalypse. Now that he's also come here, he definitely won't expose our address. Next, I locked the shed door from the inside. It was a bulletproof grade security door. Even a tank would have trouble blowing it open without it being opened from the inside. Wei Shengjin would never have the chance to come in again in this lifetime. After doing all this, we retreated to the air raid shelter. But we kept thinking about the debts Wei Shengjin owed us from our past life. This life, I will definitely make him pay back 100-fold. Before I died in my past life, this life, I will definitely survive with my parents. Lying in bed scrolling through my phone before sleep, news about the rainstorm was overwhelming. The flooding in the central basin cities of the country was particularly severe. There were already cars floating on the ground. In plateau regions, perhaps because of the higher altitude and less rainfall, many people from basin cities were migrating their entire families to take refuge. The government urgently recruited a batch of temporary workers to build shelters. But visibility in the rain was low, making construction extremely difficult, and progress was slow. The rainstorm destroyed the crops. making this year's harvest a major concern. The livelihood of farmers also became a problem. Everyone was praying for the rainstorm to end soon. But I knew that this rainstorm would last for another half-month. What would follow in half a month was the true descent of the White Desert. The next day, pretending to be utterly miserable on the surface, I hugged the unwashed jacket and ran to Wei Shengzhen's door, knocking hard. Wei Shengzhen opened the door and said impatiently, "What do you want?" "I came to return your jacket and ask for a box of self-heating rice. I haven't eaten yet." I symbolically rubbed my round, full belly. I handed the wet clothes to Wei Shengzhen. Take it away, take it away. I don't want clothes that smell like Wei Shengzhen looked disgusted and was about to close the door. "Shengzhen, my food." I anxiously grabbed the door handle. Wei Shengzhen violently pushed me down. "Don't ever knock on my door again. If you're hungry, go eat forage with the cattle and sheep. Aren't there chickens too? Once they lay eggs, you can eat them." Before I could reply, Wei Shengzhen slammed the door shut. I returned to the fortress looking disheveled. Dad quickly handed me a hand warmer. "Girl, how about we just ignore him? No, he's a grown man after all. And if I don't ask him for food, he'll get suspicious. Once he finishes those stored rations, the extreme cold apocalypse will have arrived. We won't have to fear his threats anymore." 2 weeks passed. Not wanting to alert him, I would wander around Wei Shengzhen's door every day. At first, he would humor me with a few words. Later, he couldn't even be bothered to make a sound. Waking up from a nap, I looked out the window. The sky today was unusually red. The rainstorm showed signs of weakening. The internet was currently normal. The country had initiated a level 1 emergency. Many city buildings were submerged, up to the 3rd or 4th floors. Rescue teams were conducting emergency operations. They navigated in simple rubber boats, shuttling through the cities. The news was overwhelming. The rain stopped. People despairingly found that sunlight did not fall upon the earth. On the 3rd day after the rainstorm, fine snow began to fall from the sky. Then, the snow grew heavier and heavier, eventually turning into a blizzard. The extreme cold apocalypse had descended.